It's Hollie's Hotspurs back with another one. Chatting all things Tottenham, we're second to none. Special guests every time, if it's win, lose or draw. The passion is high like Harry Kane when he scores. Or when Lloris makes a world-class save. We got Højbjerg running the mid every game. Settle down, stick around, share your thoughts with the panel. And make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Coys.
Hold on a minute, I've lost you.
Oh, think you're muted.
Hollie, you're on mute. There you go.
On mute again.
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah,
It's my dodgy internet again. This will be the last time I'll be on this dodgy internet. So Hollie's Hotspurs next week will be living lavish. But regardless, I'm here a bit like Tottenham's start against Chelsea and the end result, my internet right then. But welcome everyone to Hollie's Hotspurs. Tonight I am joined by three lovely guests to obviously go over that defeat against Chelsea once again. To start off with, I am joined by Stel. Stel, how are you tonight?
Tonight I'm better than yesterday, so that's good. My weekend isn't as bad as perhaps what it could have been because Arsenal messed up, which is always a joy. We're still in the top four race, although I'm not convinced. I haven't been all season, even under Conte. But look, we're going to have a good chat about it tonight. And otherwise, I'm all right, and I hope you're all right, as well as George and Graham.
Yeah, I'm all good. It'd be good therapy, I think, tonight's show. But I'm also joined by another man that doesn't really need an introduction, and that is Graham Roberts, the former Spurs player and legend himself. How are you tonight, Graham?
Hi, I'm good, Hollie. Thank you. Looking forward to this. Getting all the frustrations out of us.
Indeed, it is good therapy. And also joined by George. George, how are you this evening as well, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Got over yesterday, so yeah, looking forward to this.
I was going to say, just about got over it, I think that's everybody's feeling at the moment. But without further ado, let's just crack it off. And let's start with, obviously, the first thing that comes out, and that is the lineup. Now, I don't know about you three, but still, I'll start with you first. How confused and baffled? I know you're a coach, as we all like to call you yourself. So what was going through your thoughts, obviously, when you saw that starting lineup?
I felt like Conte wanted to do something different, which is a positive sign because the previous 2 games we played against him, it wasn't working. I don't think... I personally wouldn't have done what he did, but he earns £20 million a year. I certainly don't earn that. So I'm not for 1 second going to question what Conte does, but I think he got it wrong. I think that the formation he set up was too defensive. I think there's a blueprint that's been set this season. If you look at Liverpool, City, Chelsea, when teams do get into them and do find joy, it's because they've really gone at them. They've really pushed them back and said, let's just give it a go. Whether you win or not is a different story, but they really push them. And I don't think the formation that we picked was going to test them. As for the players we picked, I don't think Doherty should be wearing a Spurs shirt. I know he had a good 45 minutes against Leicester, but that's not good enough for me. Sessegnon, I don't think he's ready. I don't understand why we play 2 up top when we've only got 1 striker at the club. We've only got 1 real striker, yet we persist with 2 or 3. So it kind of played out. When we played Chelsea in the first leg of the Carabao Cup at Stamford Bridge, and we played Chelsea last night in the league, 2 different formations, yet exact same possession stats, shots on goal, shots on target, nothing really changed. And it's because I think we're too pragmatic against Chelsea, and we showed them too much respect. And for that, I know it's not popular opinion. I put that on Conte. I don't put it on Levy, Enoch, the players. I put that on Conte. But again, he did try something different, and he's an elite manager. If he's given the right tools, he will be super successful. So it's not like I'm criticising him as a person. I'm just questioning a 1 event game where I felt it could have been better. But did any of us think we were going to get anything at Chelsea? Probably not. So, it is what it is.
And that's the thing. It's interesting you say that, like, to try something different, but the outcome was sadly still the same. I mean, I know you've mentioned Bergwijn still. Graham, were you happy to see Bergwijn starting? I mean, it was in a more central position up top. Do you think that was maybe, I don't know, just a roll of the dice because he's high performing at the moment?
Well, the player of the season at the moment is Moura. So you drop Moura for Bergwijn because Bergwijn comes on and scores 2 goals, which you've got to say that'll never happen again in a million years at Leicester. You know, we do beat Leicester every year at their place, but to score 2 goals in the 95th and 96th minute, you're never really going to get that again. I'm looking at. I've watched every Chelsea game against Tottenham this year, and I looked at it today before I came on, and we haven't scored in 5 games. Okay, so if we score a goal, we got a chance of getting a draw, but we haven't scored a goal. So I've looked at it, and I've looked at what they do better than us, and it's probably everything, because their defence is solid. They don't concede goals, and to win any game or any competition or any cups or any Premier Leagues or whatever competitions you're in, you've got to keep clean sheets. We can't do that because we give silly free kicks away, we give silly corners away, and then we, instead of trying to head the ball clear, we try to fight everybody and put our arms around people. So, you know, I look at our defence, and I put on Twitter last night, we will not win a trophy with this defence. Until we get rid of this defence, the whole lot, and we start properly again from scratch, and we get 3 centre-halves like Rudiger, like Azpilicueta, they go around. We were softies yesterday. I call us the softies team now. Nobody wants to fight. Nobody wants to get in a battle. Nobody wants to, you know, get in amongst teams. And we played, I don't know how many London derbies this year, 4, 5, maybe with the cup games. We haven't won one yet. You know, that's how soft we are. And I said all along that you look at Chelsea's midfield, they had Jorginho, they had the lad from Real Madrid, Kovacic, and Mason Mount. The last 3 games we played them, Kante played in the last game in the cup. You have to match up. You have to go man for man on those 3. You stop there, they tick everything. They make everything play. But we don't. We go 2 in midfield. They play around us again. They get wide. They take people on. Listen,
totally
I agree. I think Conte got his tactics wrong. Against Chelsea, if you match up, I saw Burnley play early in the season against Chelsea. Burnley matched up, man for man, in midfield. They got a draw. They played really, should have won the game. But they matched up in midfield. And if you don't match up with Chelsea in midfield, you're going to get overrun because they got 3 against 2 all the time. And they make little angle. And you're knackered. And I don't see what managers can't see that. You know, like Stel said, you know, if he's getting 15, 20 million pound a year, but there's other coaches there that surely should see that.
Graham, can I ask you something? Because a lot of Spurs fans that I know, they've been saying that they think Conte is partly trying to do this and partly trying to play certain players to show the board, look, these players are not good enough. Don't expect me to do anything.
He has been doing that. I agree with you.
Do you think that's the case, or?
Well, I don't know. You're looking.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know personally, but
no, but nobody knows. You know, but he has come out and said in his words,
After the game,
this is what you give me. You know, and if you don't give me better, we ain't going any further. And he's come out and said Chelsea are miles better than us, which they are. Everybody knows that.
Yeah,
but
they are.
We've got players that, for me, don't do basics properly. You know, against teams like that, the free kick, they scored the second goal. The lad, Silva, headed it like nearly headed it on the ground where he didn't even have to jump.
Sanchez tried to karate chop it away from him. And it was just.
You're thinking, surely, all they want to do at the moment, Skip should have given a penalty away. He's had his arms around Azpilicueta, and now he got away with that. I don't know. But if you're looking at the ball, when you attack the ball, you can head the ball away. You ain't got to worry where the player goes. And that's
Yeah.
I look at it and I think until they get a whole new back five that he wants, we will be in this position every game. And we haven't won a London derby because we don't know how to play at a derby level. We're not up for it, and that's what it
Yeah,
looks like.
agree. I think that's the thing as well, because obviously I'll come to you, George, because obviously we've spoken about obviously not being able to match Chelsea, but I also don't think we match them mentally. Like Graham was alluding to, that we don't match them mentally either. And I know Mark said here as well about obviously playing Højbjerg and Winks and Højbjerg and Skip, and then to change it, I was a bit confused by that as well. I think.
Same. I think, to be honest with you, I think we've looked way too timid against Chelsea for a while now. I think for a good maybe 3 years. And I don't know what it is about us, because if you just look a few days prior, Brighton took the game to them and managed to get a draw against them with the way they played. Yet for whatever reason, and it's weird because even though we switched to what it seems like a four, a back 4-4-2, we still were just so defensive because he ended up putting more wing backs as right mid, left mid. Like the formation, nothing just made sense with how we approached that game. And for me, it just felt like a massive experiment. And yeah, to that comment, which is actually my dad's, I was the same thing. Like none of those midfielders are creative players, which is still a problem. However, having those three there makes it a lot harder for Chelsea's midfield to then just dominate the game, which they did throughout. It was just easy for them. And the whole match was just simply Chelsea players breaking very quickly and attacking and putting so much pressure on our players. We had no idea what to do with it. And instead of us doing that, we just kind of sat back with all our midfielders, all the defenders just kept on piling on the pressure, and it was eventually going to crumble. So yeah, every team so far, like Graham said, has proven to play Chelsea. You need to take the game to them. We haven't done that for a good few years, and I don't know why. Yeah, I think it's just a massive mentality problem.
Agreed. It's just like a massive mental block. It's so strange. I can't get my mind around it. I mean, obviously there was a glimmer of hope. Stel, I'll come to you for this one, which has caused a bit of controversy. Obviously the Harry Kane goal being disallowed. Now, first thoughts. How are you? I know we're probably all feeling fuming, but what's your kind of take, obviously, on that being disallowed?
I think it's very, 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 very intelligent from the defender, and in England, we're not a fan of the dark arts, and we're not a fan of trying to get an advantage if it means kind of tricking the referee into thinking something incorrect. But what I've found is elite, and I mean elite level players, they've got it in their locker nowadays. I don't know about the past. Graham can tell us about that because obviously he's played the game, won trophies and whatnot. But if you look at John Terry, he had it in him. If you look at Collini, European Cup final, he pulled back Saka because he knew he had to take one for the team. And I think Harry Kane got into a position where Thiago Silva knew he was in trouble, and he's just sold a movement of Harry Kane when Kane went like that. Whether Kane was trying to get distance or trying to just push away to get into whatever Kane was doing, Thiago Silva just mastered using that to sell it to the referee. Some you get, some you don't, and he's pulled a fast one on the referee. And because VAR rules mean that you can't use VAR unless it's clear and obvious, it's just if you're a defender, it's just superb defending when you really need to pull something out of the hat when you're in deep trouble. If you're a Spurs fan, Harry Kane in the neutral, you're thinking that's a joke. How's that been disallowed? So it depends which side of the fence you're on. For me, I don't get it. It should have been a goal, but at the same time, would our players have done it? Because I've seen Ben Davies in games where he could have gone to ground. He's staying on his feet because he's being honest. He's being, a genuine footballer. But maybe to be that elite level, you need a bit of Lamella in you. So
do you remember last year, Stav? Do you remember last year?
Yeah.
I think it was last year we played Liverpool away. I think it was Mora or one of them. They went through and he pushed him in the back. And he didn't go.
It was Mora, yeah.
He didn't go down.
Yeah.
But he did push him. It was the same referee.
There you go. He's got it in for us.
Well, I've always said I think he's the worst referee in the Premier League. I think he's too lightweight. I don't think he gets the decisions right. I think we've had him 2 or 3 times this year at home. He's been very, very poor. For me, he is the worst referee in the Premier League at the moment.
I think the problem is that I think the state of officiating in the Premier League throughout the whole season, and even the last couple of years, to be honest with you, has been terrible. And not like, and if you think about, if it was the roles reversed, if that was Kane going to ground, it'd be booked for diving, and it's just there's no consistency with it at all. I know defenders they're always going to get more with it in that sort of scenario, but there's absolutely zero consistency throughout the game. When a similar thing happened to Dele Alli against Liverpool at home, I don't think that should have been a pen, but it was a similar scenario, and it's just completely different results.
We talk about VAR. There was a goal scored at the weekend, and I can't remember what game it was. And like his hand was offside, and they gave the goal.
Was that Cavani and Rashford to Man United?
They disallowed Harry Kane's goal because his hand was offside against Southampton.
Mm-hmm.
That is what that. So that's why VAR for me at the moment is a waste of time because they don't keep consistency, and it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of time, and you should just let the referee because what they're doing is now they're waiting for the VAR to get them out of the crap. Sorry about my language.
And I think the thing is as well, I think it needs to be officiated by a separate board, if that makes sense, because they're all trying to look after each other's backs, if that makes sense. If one ref makes a silly decision, it's all right. My mate will back me out in VAR. It's just a massive. It just causes more controversy than what's needed, I think.
Why don't they, Hollie? Why don't they put players who have played the game and know all the tricks in the VAR with them?
It's funny you say that as well, because we've spoken about obviously Thiago being very clever, but isn't VAR supposed to look at things when they've outplayed the ref? Like, isn't that what VAR should be used for necessarily?
Yeah, but it's not.
I don't know.
He didn't think. What was it like? Stel said just a minute ago. It wasn't. What was the word you used? I couldn't remember what the word you used.
Obvious and clear error.
Clear. Yeah. It wasn't obvious and clear because if it had been obvious and clear, then the VAR would have got involved, but he got away with it, and good luck to him. You know, that's very good play by the centre half. But I think the referees need to come to task now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to have the best league in the world, we've probably got the worst referees. It's ridiculous. I mean, definitely. I just want to click on to what Mike said. Obviously, we're speaking about clear and obvious. I think those kind of rules, George. I'll come to you because obviously it's your dad. I'll come to you for this one. Do you think that needs to be basically taken away? Because we're talking about clear and obvious again, but what actually is clear and obvious? Because the lines seem to be blurred every week.
Clear and obvious. It doesn't. To me, it doesn't mean anything. I don't understand. What is? How can you define like clear and obvious? Because every scenario is just so different. I think having the VAR technology is not a problem because if you see every other major sport in the world, it's got some sort of video reviewing assistant. But for whatever reason, I think it's more to do with the officials using it incorrectly and not necessarily. It's just strange how like so many fans around the world and even pundits, ex-players, whatever, so many people can see when a certain situation, whether it be a penalty, a goal, whatever maybe, is one way, yet somehow the referees are giving it completely the opposite or not using the technology right. So I don't know. I don't know whether you need to train the referees better. I don't know if the rules need to change around VAR, but even if there's maybe like a challenge system like you've got in tennis and multiple other sports where you're not over abusing VAR, where you're going to have 7 minutes added on because of all these different changes. It's just, all right, you've got 3 chances to use it. If you get the decision right, you get that chance back sort of thing. And then I think we'll probably see less teams cheating because of that. So I don't know.
George,
it's just a suggestion.
If we do that, we'll be here till midnight.
True.
Giving them 3 chances and then you don't lose your chance of being till midnight.
I mean,
do you know?
Oh, sorry. Go on, Stel. Go on.
As I said, the biggest problem with VAR is 85% of the decisions are correct. So it's actually fixed a lot of the errors. If as much as I hate it, second leg against Chelsea, we could have had 2 penalties and a goal, and VAR got it right in every occasion. It served its purpose. It's just when it gets it wrong, that's when we just lose our minds because we expect it to be 100% bulletproof. I think it will never be 100% bulletproof.
I think the problem is with the ones that are wrong. Like for some reason, they seem to just look for the really small, minor details rather than taking like the bigger picture of what's happened. Like for instance, there's been occasions for red cards where they'll just look at like a screenshot, just a freeze frame of that moment, rather than looking at the bigger picture if it was right or not. Same with some close margins of offside, like with the Kane one against Southampton, was it?
Yeah.
It was like, well, if you look at the bigger picture, has he gained an advantage by being that like tiny millimeter that they're saying is offside? No, he hasn't. So why are they making that decision?
Yeah, but that one, George, he was offside because his hand was in front of the other fella. You can only be offside from a goal, what you can score a goal, and you can't score a goal with your hand. So they got it wrong. But they did it again on Saturday. His hand was offside, and Rashford's goal, and they gave it. That's where they're wrong.
I think a lot of problems as well stem from the people that write the laws of the game are just people in suits that sit in UEFA and FIFA. They're not ex-players like Graham said that we need in the VAR room. Ex-players should be writing the laws of the game. You know, they know what it means to. Yeah,
I agree. I think ex-players. It don't matter who they are. You know, you have. Just say for me, I went and I done Man United, Man City game. You don't have. You know, you have to have not person to that club, but a player will know when you played the game. You know all the tricks. So you know what's like that one on Sunday. He was very clever with it. You knew.
I think
you could say to the referee, "He's pulled you there. He hasn't really pushed him. He's just lent his arm on him, and he's dived forward. You can see it."
Graham, even the way he fell was not natural. That wasn't a natural fall.
It was like three steps afterwards.
He's choreographed that. It's just.
But
I think as well
an ex-player will say to the referee in his ear, "He's conned you there. You should have a look at it."
Exactly.
Well, I think as well having multiple people voting independently rather than just one person doing VAR as well would help, because then you're getting multiple views of the same thing rather than just one person could make the same mistake as a referee. Say if it was just one person reviewing it.
It's very interesting, and I think that's the thing I was trying to allude to with VAR. I know, obviously, Stel, you said that obviously it wasn't clear and obvious, and we've spoken about clear and obvious. But like Graham said, maybe having someone that's been there, done it, got the T-shirt can actually be like that, maybe been played. Because that's the thing for me when I saw it, I'm like, there's no way he's fallen like that. There's no way on planet Earth. And I think that's the thing that riled me up. And then since then, we obviously go on, Stel, quickly. I know you want to.
I was going to say my issue are the rules. I don't like the rules. It's like when the goalkeeper dropped the ball against Southampton, and then the goal we scored was disallowed because there's a rule either that the ref blew before the ball went in the back. Whatever the ruling there, clearly that rule is silly. It's just daft, because if the referee saw that again, the referee's going to say, "Yeah, actually, you've dropped the ball. It's a goal." But he's not allowed to look again, and that's a rule. It's not the referee's fault. That is a rule.
Yeah.
You know, they only ever go to the monitors if they're actually pretty much guaranteed to turn over the decision, which doesn't make any sense either. Like, it's supposed to be an assistant. It's supposed to give you another chance to look at it from a better angle, and that's not happening.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's just an absolute fun. I'm hoping that obviously this gets reviewed, but we'll have to wait and see. But then obviously for us, that sadly then made our heads dropped, and we never were really getting out of the gutter, so to speak, because it just kind of all turned tables. But obviously before we kind of drift away from the gutter, I also want to talk about obviously the players that weren't involved, which I think pretty much necessarily seals their fate. So we'll start obviously with Stel first. I'm going to talk about Ndombele, because I know we've had many discussions about Ndombele, but do you think basically now his fate is pretty much sealed? Do you think a loan move is basically imminent?
Yeah, he has to leave the club. I'm gutted because I walk a very lonely road. I still defend Ndombele. I know most fans will disagree, and that's fair enough, but I believe he's one player that's been mismanaged, and the environment at Spurs has caused him, not purely the club, but he personally as well has contributed, but I don't think we've really facilitated his development correctly. And what I mean by that is you signed 3 players for Poch, and then Poch gets fired 3 months later. So then Mourinho comes in and he inherits these players. You then sign 8 players from Mourinho the following summer. Mourinho gets sacked 9 months later. So now Nuno's inherited those players. And then you sign 5 players for Nuno. Nuno gets sacked 2 months later. It's a constant cycle of we're buying players for managers, then sacking the managers, and there's no continuity at the club. And I just feel a lot of the players at the club have been caught up in this mess. I'm not defending the players because they've still got to turn up and perform. But you can't buy a player for a manager and then expect that player to still perform under a different manager in a different system. Ndombele, if you look at the player we signed, he played in a very attacking, possession-based football team in France. And that's kind of how Poch played. But then Mourinho comes in, it's 30% possession, low block, really defensive, bypass the midfield. It's a completely different type of player you need from Mourinho now. And then Nuno comes in, a different system. Now you've got Conte, free at the back, attacking wing-backs. It's just, I look at Brighton, Graham Potter, the way he plays, the way he sets. I think Graham Potter's the best English manager around. I think he's a fantastic young, well, I don't know if he's young, but I think he's a fantastic manager and coach. And I watched Brighton against Chelsea, the way they take the game to Chelsea, dominate possession, dominate shots. And I think this is such a cracking little side. Don't tell me they've got a better squad than Spurs. There's no way they've got a better squad than Spurs, but what they do have is one manager who's been given time, patience. Maybe there's less pressure at Brighton as well, which makes it easier, and the fans are less kind of demanding. I'm sure that's a big factor. But one manager, let him slowly build up his players with whatever budget they've got and give him time. And look at what Brighton are doing, that size club. And I just feel at Tottenham, chop change. There's no plan. There's no forward thinking. There's no like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? It's just, let's chop this manager and let's buy this player. There's no strategy. And then in that, I think players like Ndombele, Lo Celso's, I think they just get suffocated or they just drown in the situation. I'm not saying they're not at fault because that's not fair on the club. But I do feel the club partly needs to get its act together because it can't be every single player we sign, they're all turning to crap. That can't be right. There's something wrong there. It can't just be all our scouts are rubbish. We're a professional football club.
The scouts are not very good because what you look at in a football player, you're playing in the French league.
Yeah.
Coming into the British League, English League, Premier League, which is the best league in the world. It's the most physical league in the world. You've got to be strong and powerful. So Ndombele don't meet any of them criteria. He can't run. He's not strong enough. He gets bumped off the ball. He's skillful. Don't get me wrong. He's very skillful. But he does a trick. Every time he gets the ball, he does a trick. And ball foot over the top of the ball. And he's just not... He's not made for Premier League football.
Graham, don't you think that he's been played too deep, like too defensive at times? He should be a bit further up the pitch.
He never. When he first came, he never. But he runs, like he's come out in the summer and we got rid of Aurier. We got rid of Sissoko. I want to leave. My two mates are gone. Well, if you've got
that's on the player. That's on the player.
If you've got an attitude like that, you ain't got no chance. You've got no chance to be at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And that's the problem you got, is players get away with murder at the moment. And they have got away with murder. They've got Pochettino, never won a game in 15 months away from home. Players drop their, whatever they dropped. They get Mourinho in. Mourinho tells Levy, I can do with these players better than any manager you've ever had. He falls out with two or three, they gang up, and all of a sudden Mourinho gets sacked. You get Nuno. Starts off, top of the league, everything's fine. All of a sudden, he leaves people out, they gang up, Nuno's gone. So, it's the players, the manager does what he has to do. When they go on that pitch and when they play for this football club, it's a massive club. Tottenham is a massive club. You come into Tottenham, there's pressure on you straight away. You haven't won a trophy since 2008, wasn't it, the last time? So you haven't won a trophy for 14 years, 13, 14 years, whatever. So there's pressure. As soon as you come through that door, if you can't handle the pressure, you ain't going to make it.
Graham, you kind of back up what I've said, though, but in a different way. Like you're from right. What I understood from what you said is that the players gang up, they get rid of the manager. Players gang up, they get rid of the manager. Effectively, the players are getting the manager sacked. In that case, that should not be then. The club should back the manager and stop backing the players. And because they haven't done that, that's the environment that I'm talking about, that culture that's manifested at Tottenham. It's drowning players and probably drowning the managers as well. So you look at it from a different angle to me. I look at it more from defending the players. You're more defending the manager. But whatever is happening, whether it's the manager's fault or the coach, the club is allowing this cycle to continue.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And that for me is where I think the problem lies. It's that chop and change. There's no, there just seems a calmness at Brighton.
I think
there seems a stability there that we don't have.
I think it's only Watford who's had more managers than us.
I think as well it comes down to like the recruitment and like the style of recruitment, because we never seem to just get rid of get rid of like all of the dead wood, or maybe the players that have issues at the club. Like look at I don't know, Dele Alli as an example. For the last 2.5, 3 years, he has been nowhere near the level that he used to be at or should be at. Yet we're still finding issues moving these players on if we want to, because it can't help around the dressing room having sort of players like, okay, what is it, Ndombele, Dele Alli, some other players that might not be performing as well, not getting the minutes that they want, causing issues. We never seem to sell them or even bring in enough players to sort of change the mentality around the team. There's always seems to be the same sort of players that are there and causing the same issues. So, and then also we then sign young players, and which is why I'm worried about Brian Hill as a player that looks like he could be a future star, but we've signed him as a very young player who, like Gwen was saying earlier, is a bit weaker though. So is going to struggle in the Prem at the moment, but he's not going to get the game time to develop. Yet we're looking to loan him out to teams like Seville, where he's not going to necessarily build that physicality. He should maybe get a loan move to somewhere in the Prem. That way, at least he can build up the knowledge, the strength, whatever it needs to take to be in the Premier League. And then I don't understand why we're not then signing players from the Premier League itself. Teams that have been there, done that, are good enough to improve the team now. Instead, we're hoping on an 18-year-old from League One to become the next whatever he may be. I think the big problems come around the recruitment that we're doing. Yeah.
Just again. So stop changing the manager. Stop changing the manager then.
Yeah. Just a quickie before you go. Dele Alli, okay? Dele Alli was my favourite player. Him and Moussa Dembele, okay? 3 years ago, brilliant. So we've had 3 different managers, and they can't get the best out of him. So I wish I was his agent, because I would get hold of him. I'd take him to a hairdresser's and I'd say, chop that hair off. Go back to what you're good at. This is when you was good. Take him and watch a video on when he played against the Chelseas, against Liverpool's, Man United, when he was scoring goals. I remember him scoring 2 goals at White Hart Lane. The last time we beat Chelsea away, he scored 2 goals in that game. He was brilliant. Show him them videos and then show him what he's doing today and say, that is where you've gone. You've gone from there to the top to the bottom. Why? And you get to the bottom of it. But we don't.
To be honest with you,
this technology at the training ground in football, and surely somebody's come up with an idea and said, put their arm around him, take him for a walk, take him to the hairdressers, cut that bloody hair off because it's pathetic, and get him back to normal. Get him back to where he was.
To be honest with you, I think, it looked like Mourinho sort of did that to an extent if you look in the All or Nothing documentary. But at this point, it's probably one of them ones where he'll benefit him from a move for himself, because at the end of the day, there probably are just players that are now getting way too comfortable being at Spurs now with Dele, being too comfortable, being able to not really have the performances that he wants, but he's going to earn X amount every week, be there for a long contract. So at that point, for him to do better, he probably needs a new club with new experiences, new manager, new ethos or whatever to sort of revitalize his career. I personally can't see it happening now at Spurs. No. No matter what manager comes in or whatever, because at the end of the day, I think he's just too comfortable just being where he is. So we need to move these players on, in my opinion.
Can I ask you guys a question about Dele? Right, I agree. I think he should be moved on, by the way. But I kind of feel as soon as Dele Alli stopped playing behind Kane and we sold Eriksen, who fed those late balls into Dele when he made those runs into the box, do you think that had a massive impact on Dele's game as well?
I think Eriksen is the biggest miss for the way he plays, because like you said, he almost acted like a shadow striker, a second striker, we haven't had that creative player that can provide those sort of balls since Eriksen left, and it's just
because him and Kane had the best partnership in the league at one point.
100%. They Dele Alli scored 15 goals. Harry Kane 25, 26 goals.
Wasn't he fastest to 50 goals, like ahead of Lampard and people like that as well? Like he was unreal.
But the thing about it is that we also had Moussa Dembele in midfield, who could play. He was strong. He held the midfield together. That released Eriksen. That released Dele Alli. But we haven't got that no more. Because I think we're just pathetic in midfield and defence. I think we've got no guts in there. Nobody, like I look at Chelsea yesterday. They take off Jorginho. We bring in Gil. They bring in Kante. That's how far we are.
No comparison, is there?
That's how far behind we are. And that's where you are. And I'm not having to go at the Gils and all that, but that's where we are. So we have to say, I said on social media that with this team, we won't win a trophy. We need a rebuild, and we need it for this manager. We have the best manager. I think he could be better than Pochettino.
Given the right tools, yeah.
Well, he's won trophies. Pochettino
do you know, for me,
never won a trophy.
Do you know, for me, the Poch was the best. Yeah.
But
I think, Graham, do you know what I think it is, right? When we sacked Poch, what we should have done is bring in a manager that plays Poch type of football, but takes it to that next level. But instead, we did a 180 and brought in a completely different style of manager for the same group of players. And then ever since then, we've had almost like an identity crisis. How do we play? How do we want to set up?
Yeah,
we should have. And now we've kind of found a manager that says, look, this is how we're going to do it. Three at the back, wing backs. So this is where I think you're right. You've got to now do a massive rebuild and bring in his players, his way. Otherwise, we're just going to go back to, right, let's try another manager, another system, another manager. There's been no continuity for 3 years. We haven't built on what Poch did. We've gone backwards.
Yeah, I watched that game yesterday, and I'm seeing Silva throw his body in the way, stopping shots, blocking tackles. I don't see that in our team. I look at it and I'm thinking, well, you've got against Leicester, the two most pathetic goals you've ever seen in your life.
And it
just walked through our defence.
It keeps happening. So they've either got to learn how to do it properly or bugger off.
Get rid. And that's the thing. The trouble is, now we've got to this point, it's going to cost too much money to get rid and get in. That's the problem. We've allowed this to carry on, and we all know. We all know whose that fault is to that question. But it just drives me insane. Like you say, we've kind of lost our way in the sense that we have no passion to wear that shirt anymore. And I know, Graham, we've spoken about it before. How you'd wear your shirt and go through brick walls for it, but these players don't seem to have it because they don't have the connection with the club. Because, like we've all said tonight, they're too comfortable at where they are, and it's
too much. They're on too much money. So, if they was on 10 grand a week and they were getting £100,000 every time you won, it'd be different. You would see a totally different outfit. But because they're on big money, and that's good luck to them. Nobody begrudges them. That's what they're a professional football player. But me personally, I love Tottenham Hotspur. I play for Chelsea as well, but I love Tottenham Hotspur as my team. And I don't see people wanting to die on that pitch and physically hurt themselves for that team. I just don't see it anymore. I think
I agree.
They go out there. If they win, they win. Like last night, I'm watching it, and you got Mora and Silva cuddling each other. That wouldn't happen in our day. You'd end up getting an headbutt or something like that. But that's like what I'm saying is that's you never ever cuddled anybody on the pitch.
So Reguilon and Hill talking to Alonso on the they're warming up on the touchline.
Yeah, the thing about it is straight after the game. You've just got beat and really given a right doing against Chelsea, and you got him. There was some other, I can't remember what the other players were, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that can't be right. That can't be right. You know, you just can't be. You don't like. You can cuddle him on the aeroplane today on the way back to Brazil when nobody can see you.
Yeah, but not on the pitch.
In front of your own fans. You don't do it. You don't do it. When you play in derbies, you have to hate. Well, I hate them anyway, but you have to hate the other team that you're playing against. And,
yeah.
But you know what? I wouldn't mind if they cuddle or whatever after the game and this, that, and the other. It's the fact that we're not seeing that sort of aggression or anything on the pitch during the match at all. Like I think Dyer probably showed it the most out of anyone in that team, and to be fair to him, he normally does when it comes to a derby. But there's not enough of that in the team, in my opinion.
George, we haven't won a derby. We've lost to West Ham. We've lost 3 times to Chelsea. 4 times, sorry. 4 times.
Arsenal as well.
We lost to Arsenal. Hold on. When's it going to stop? When's a nice team going to become a bad team to play against? Because all those teams you play against, you speak to their supporters. What team do you want to beat this season? Tottenham. Chelsea. What team do you want to beat this team? Tottenham. Arsenal. What team do you want to beat?
But doesn't this come back down to the players then? Because that's what Mourinho tried to do when he came in. He said that the players were too nice and whatever, and he tried to bring this mentality in. And then they kind of turned on in again, like Stel said. So
times have changed though. They're all, like Mr. K says, they're all friends on social media. They like each other's Instagram images and they follow each other and on TikTok, and they're all online friends. Most of them now, aren't they? It's a different world. I do believe though you can still be. You can detach yourself when you're on when you get on that pitch and you're going to work. Your job is to win. You can forget the social media friendship for 90 minutes.
Well,
I guess.
But that's my point. We don't see it.
I'll tell you a story. When I left Tottenham and I got booted out by David Pleat, and I went to Glasgow Rangers. Rangers and Celtic were sponsored by the same company. It was a drinking company, I think it was. So they asked us to go and have a photograph together, and I refused. How can I go and tackle somebody and want to win them on a pitch and then go and have a nice photograph? No chance. Never happened. Never happened and never will.
I mean, again, that's the whole money side of football, isn't it? Because that's obviously sponsorship and you do it for the money.
The manager said it's up to you. If you want to go, don't go. If you don't want to go. That was Graham Souness. And I said, I don't want to go and have a photograph with them. And that's the way it was. I never ever went into the photograph. But the thing about it is, you can't. Why can't we be like they are? Why can't we be that they want to beat us and it doesn't look like we want to beat them? And that's what I can't get. I can't get the will to win it, the will to go out there and show your emotion and say, you're not, like Skip or Winks to Jorginho, you're not going to get a kick today. I'm going to mark you out of the game. No, they're happy enough to stand off him, let him spray the ball around and run round them. And then by the time they close them down, they're gone. And that's what
we need that. We need the battle of the bridge back again in the team.
That would do it.
Does it affect your game when you look around and you see certain players in your team? You're thinking, "Oh God, I'm playing with him today." Does that affect you, Graham?
It wouldn't affect me in my game because we never had that sort of players. Every time we played in the derby, you knew every player going on that pitch in our team in the 80s were going out there to, you'd have.
But let's say you didn't have those types of players. Like this squad's got a couple that they're not like that. Yeah. So would it affect this?
Well, it would, because what you would do is after 10 minutes in the game, we haven't got any leaders that will dig people out. You can't, because they're on. I believe because they're on so much money now, players don't bother. Like they say, well, what's the use of shouting at him? Because you don't listen anyway. So, it's all about you have to have a leader on the pitch. Like Harry Kane, probably the leader we've got. But when we played, we had 7 leaders on the pitch. So if one player wasn't doing it, he got a kick up the backside from all of us. And it lifted him. I look at our players and you could say the back five yesterday, the two midfield players were non-existent second half. And you needed somebody to say, come on, you go and mark him, make decisions on the pitch. Stevie Perriman was always told, if we're not going well and we're not doing, he has the right to change things on the pitch and to tell people what to do. Well, I can't see any of our players being allowed to do that because they're not strong enough. They're not strong enough.
And again, it's that vicious cycle. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom because obviously lots of people have been talking about the comparisons to now and Jose and everything, which is true. But I feel with this transfer window that's still open, we still haven't really done anything. I think that's something that's going to be rather pressing, obviously, with the next week. I think it's only a week left, isn't it, really? So Stel, I'll jump in quickly just to get, obviously, your thoughts of the transfer window so far. What are your hopes actually going to happen before it slams shut?
Hollie, this might upset a lot of people watching your show. Quite frankly, I don't care anymore, right? I am my own person. This is only Stelios saying this, not Hollie or anyone else on the show. I'm not going to speculate about transfers. I'm not going to talk about players going in or out. If we have not made sufficient progress in the window on the 31st of this month, transfer deadline day, myself and hundreds of others, it's all been planned. We are going to Hotspur Way and we are protesting in front of Sky cameras all day on transfer deadline day. We've got flags, T-shirts, everything. Enough is enough. And that's all I'm going to say on it, because if I say any more, I'm going to lose it, and I want to be respectful in your show, and that's it.
Thank you, Stel. But no, that's the thing. Like, I know I went to the process with you. I don't know how long it's going to take for people to sit there and be like, we're being taken for a ride. And I know we spoke about it, obviously, Graham, just before we came on, and you do make a good point in the fact that obviously I'll let you say it, but we've obviously got to have a buyer to come in. But surely you're thinking to yourself, if this management in terms of Levy and Enick are managing to buy a new cinema and property and this, that and the other, they can surely afford to invest some money into the club.
Well, they have to. This manager, there's no way he would have come to this football club if he wasn't promised money. But it's whether they come up with players for him to have, and he's turned around and said, I don't want them players. I want my players, but we can't get them to the summer. Okay, we'll wait to the summer. But somebody has got to liaise with the fans. Somebody has to liaise with the fans and what's going on. Because this team can't get us in the top four. I know we've got games in hand, but we don't turn up for the big games. And
sorry, Graham, sorry to interrupt you on this. I have to say it. Wait until the summer, but liaise with the fans. I'm all for that. I don't have an issue with that if the club liaises with the fans. But if we don't buy now, like you said, we don't get top four, what players can we possibly bring in the summer without Champions League football? It has to happen now.
Yeah, I agree.
Like 2 or 3 top players. I'm not asking for 7. 2 or 3 top players, and with this manager, we can get top 4. We can do it.
Well,
I agree.
We spoke off air just a minute ago, and I said, I look at it and I think we got like an academy, right? But I read today on social media and in paper that we're looking to bring in 2 young kids. What's the academy for?
Exactly. I've been saying that. I agree, mate. I agree.
Why are we spending amounts of millions of pounds on these
crazy
academy players, and then we're going out and we bought in Sessignon? Not good enough.
Nice.
Jack Clark. Well, I think he's going to the moon.
On loan.
I think he's going loan to League One, apparently, which is...
Right? You got him. You got, I'm trying to think, there was another one. Joe Rodon. You know, not good. For me, Joe Rodon, he's okay centre-half, but he's not a Premier League player.
I haven't seen enough of him.
No, I think that one was a panic buy because we didn't get Skriniar in the summer because we didn't spend the cash, so we went into the Championship instead when the window shut.
Right? So we've spent £50 million on them players. We could have bought a decent centre half, one decent centre half, but we've gone for youngsters because maybe they think they can sell them on and make money out of them. Well, that's not what the fans want. The fans want a ready-made centre half, another ready-made centre half, and another ready-made centre half. They want a creative.
So does Conte. I think Conte wants that.
100%. They want a creative midfield player. They want 2 full-backs that can cross the ball. So we've either got to do it, or maybe Antonio leaves, and that's where we are at the moment. You know, it's a shame because we have
Can't
a
lose Antonio.
manager. We have to back him. We've got to do something about it. And if they don't,
I just want to bring this up from Dan, because obviously he said it's not doom and gloom. We are average 2.1 points over 10 games, which is fair enough. But Dan, you couldn't be sitting here and saying after playing those Chelsea games that we don't need to inject some players into this team at all. But I'll come to you, George. What's your kind of take? I mean, there's rumours about Adama. I think that rumour's been going on for weeks. I mean, I remember putting a video out like 6 months ago about Adama, and it's still a rumour. So what's your kind of thought? Do you think he could be the player to maybe change heads, or are we thinking no, not at all?
No, I don't think it's good enough, to be honest with you. At this point, I want the signing to be done because it's just taken too long now. And if it looks like it's going to happen, so why is it not done already? For me, I don't understand why we're just not targeting players. I've said it before, but like targeting players that are just proven to be good now and in their prime now. The issue with Traore, it's a big if as to whether Conte can turn him into a quality right wing back. I know he's played there a few times before under Nuno, but he's not even starting for Wolves at the moment. And you're telling me that's pretty much going to be our only transfer right now. It's just not good enough at all. If he can't play week in, week out for Wolves, clearly hasn't got the end product. Whether Conte can change that, I do not know. But at the end of the day, I think we have to be aiming bigger. We have to be aiming for the Vlahovic's, for central midfielders that are going to change the game, centre backs as well. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what Romero can finally do. I think his injury's probably been a big miss because he shows quite a bit of aggression that I think we miss a lot in defence. But again, if we're playing it in a back three, as well as Dyer and Davis have been doing for their standard, they're still not good enough to get us challenging for Champions League for whatever we want. And that's a core part of Conte's system. So why have we not signed these players in their prime now when you've got the likes of De Vrij Inter that he's worked with before, contract ends in the summer? Why are we not bringing these players in now? Like Stel said earlier before, would help us get the top 4 to attract better players. Because he's right. As soon as we don't get top 4 in the summer,
George,
who's going to come to us?
George, I think they need to clear the wage bill before they can do it.
We did it in summer. We've got like £8 million a month off the bill.
You know, if you get rid of Ndombele, the Salso, Dele Alli, one other, whatever, you're talking probably
Ndombele's 200k a week alone.
Half a mil
a week, isn't it? It's going to be 500 grand a week. So that's what they you know. I understand. Listen, we understand the way football's run, right? But sometimes when you've got a top quality manager and you brought him in, like for me, I'm waiting to see what Paratici brings to the table.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's not done it for me. So I'm waiting to see what he brings to the table.
Still, I'm hoping we won't be waiting. I mean, it's like Dan said, there's another one. We were waiting for Vlahovic for ages, and it still hasn't materialised.
Well, they reckon he's going to Arsenal, don't they?
He's not going anywhere.
It's because his agents are demanding 400 grand a week or something stupid like that, which for some reason Arsenal are willing to pay.
Vlahovic isn't going anywhere, in my opinion. He's going to go in the summer.
Hollie to get Europe for Fiorentina and then leave.
Yeah,
I just think he's waiting for a big club like Juventus or just someone of elite level that where he can win a
maybe.
Yeah.
You said big club. He won't go to Arsenal, will he?
No, he's not going there. No.
No chance.
Hollie, you know that statistic you put up about we're averaging 2.1 game points or whatever it may be.
Where is it?
Yeah, I actually don't agree with that. It was Dan that put it up. Dan something. I don't. That's it, Stanford. I don't agree. I don't disagree with what he's saying. But my point on this is, why be in a race with United and Arsenal when you can guarantee it by bringing in those players? I don't want to be in a race with them. I want to pull away from them and afford to lose Harry Kane to injury because we've got a substitute striker that can come on. Yeah. I want to be able to say, don't worry that Lucas Moore is injured because we've got whoever. to come on and score the goals. We don't have that. So I want the whole point of signing the players is to guarantee it, not to maintain being in the race. You know, there's a difference.
And as well as that, those 10 games only included Liverpool and Chelsea as big teams in the Premier League, which we haven't beaten either of them. So he's stabilising us. Yeah, he's stabilising us by beating the worst of teams that we should be beating, but doesn't necessarily mean that we would get second as like as the point suggests.
If you take out Watford, 95th minute, 96th minute, Leicester, 95th, 96th minute, you take them away, that's 4 points there. You ain't getting 2.1 a game then. So, yes, he's done well to do that, but I agree with Stel, we need to move on. If you want Harry Kane and you want top players to come to this football club, we have to have Champions League football. Playing in Europa League will not they get you second-rate players. That's it.
And we've got to keep our best players. We're not going to keep them being in Europa Conference League every year. We've got to keep them. We've got to get top 4. We've got to win trophies.
Well, we saw what happened with Kane in the summer.
I don't want another stint of that again, please. So agreed.
Well, next it'll be Sonny. Sonny, who's Mr. Tottenham, he'll kick off eventually, won't he? He'll get fed up.
Maybe.
I think all of us can sit here and say we don't really blame them, because us fans are getting to that point where we're just fed up. And but hey, let's hope that obviously with this week that's left that we actually go out and do some business, because where there's no football, I don't want to then be stressing about transfer deadline day as well. But I want to say a big thank you to you three for helping me tonight to go through a bit of therapy, because that was a hard defeat to go through once again against them lot. But we'll go around the circle and kind of say our goodbye. So Stel, thanks so much for joining me tonight. Where can everyone find you doing your thing?
Oh, I'm going to be live on my channel Tottenham Away at 8:30, so in about 30 minutes. So just pop over there if you want to listen to some more. One thing I forgot to talk about is the re-signing of Hugo Lloris. I know it's not a signing, but that is massive for the club. To try and find a replacement for Hugo. Hugo is a massive player for us.
If they try to find a replacement, you're talking 40 million quid.
Exactly.
Easily.
And I think he said as well, you know, don't quote me on this, but I'm sure I read somewhere that he said that find a goalkeeper now to replace me and I can spend 2 years nurturing him whilst he's at the club and help him develop. And that's, you know what I mean? That's the kind of player you want at the club. Yeah. So I'm very happy that he's re-signed for us, Hugo.
I think he's criminally underrated as well. I don't think
he's brilliant
give him the props they deserve.
Playing behind our back three, he's done miracles.
You've got to be brave.
Thanks yourself for mentioning that, because I like, as mad as it is, I totally forgot about it, which is really stupid of me. But no, thank you for raising that comment. Like I said, I'm very pleased that Hugo Boss is remaining with us. But also, Graham, I think we all know where we can find you. But thank you so much for coming on the channel tonight.
Lovely. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
No, cheers. Thank you. And George, where can everybody find you doing your thing as well? I'm pretty sure everybody knows where you do it too.
Well, we appreciate having me on. And it's just literally George Achillia on any sort of social media that you want to look at. But thanks for having me on.
No, cheers. And like I say, all three of you are welcome anytime. It's nice to obviously talk about Tottenham, especially when they go and do something like that. So thank you so much. And obviously everybody else in the chat as well. I'm getting better at bringing people's comments up. So thank you for bearing with me. There'll probably be no Hollie's Hotspurs next week, obviously, because there's no game. I might treat you all to Hollie's Hot Takes, but we'll have to see how that goes. But until next time, I want to say, come on, you Spurs.
Bye.